The history of the festival of Hanukkah stretches back over 2,000 years to a time of complex religious, political, and social circumstances, perhaps not unlike our own era, of those who want to build bridges of dialogue and those who want to maintain a more extreme or withdrawn position in society. It is a festival which is also infused with a powerful legend about light and a spiritual message that what is important is not might or power, but the light of God's presence among us. Hanukkah may have very ancient associations linked with the winter solstice, but its history is related in the book of Maccabees, a book that didn't make it into the canon of the Bible. Alexander the Great had conquered the Near East, including the small province of Judea. After his death, Judea came under the rule of the Seleucid dynasty. By 167 BCE, Antiochus Epiphanes was king and wanted all the people under his rule to Hellenize. He issued laws and decrees against the Jews and their practices. You cannot worship in your temple. You cannot study or read from the Torah. You must break your dietary laws. And then he did something that hurt and offended the people deeply. He set up a statue of Jupiter inside the temple, and the people were heartbroken that their temple had been defiled in such a way. They fled to the mountains and lived in caves round about Jerusalem. At that time, there was an old priest called Mattathias who had 5 sons. So enraged was he by this state of affairs that he vowed to liberate Jerusalem and reclaim the temple from its defilement. When he died, his son Judah the Maccabee took over. It took many years before the small Jewish army defeated Antiochus's armies, recaptured the temple, and rededicated it with a festival that lasted 8 days. Many centuries later, the rabbis of the Talmud retold the story of Hanukkah with a legend about a vial of oil, its seal unbroken, just enough for one day. But a miracle occurred, and the light burned for 8 days. Since that time, the Jewish people have celebrated 8 days and nights of Hanukkah, the festival of dedication, recalling the dedication of the temple. This story is told from generation to generation, each year at this season, as we light the candles on the Chanukkah and recall the miraculous survival of our people. But for all of us here, representing different faiths and cultures, different races and nationalities, its central theme of light in the midst of darkness is a universal theme. The light represents the light of creation, the light of the wintry sun we see first thing in the morning, warming the frost on the ground, or the light of a glorious sunset that concludes our day. It is the light of learning and illumination when we learn something new, the light of the warmth of friendship and companionship when we are lonely. And it is the overflowing light of hope in a future when all God's creatures will be blessed with greater love and understanding. As it is written in the prophet Zechariah, read at this season, not by might, not by power, says the prophet Zechariah, but by my Spirit, says the Eternal One of hosts.